Hey everyone, and welcome back to Spill the Tea with Damen B and Gigi.
Hi, everyone.
We're recording on Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to
Happy
everybody.
Mother's Day to everyone out there with children and dogs
Grandchildren.
and cats and grandchildren and I don't know,
I
the whole
called
list.
my aunt this morning and I was like, did you call your mom and like wish her happy Mother's Day and stuff? And I was like, are you upset that no one acknowledges that you're a mother because you own two dogs and two cats? And she's like, thank you for bringing that up because not a single person has wished me a happy Mother's Day. I was
Well, what she'll learn after
like,
she has children is that, yeah, she's not a mother yet. She's a mother in training.
well, I asked her, I said, if you went to court and the judge asked you, how do you have children? Would you say yes? And she goes, yeah.
Oh my God. No. Um, yeah,
Well,
I heard from that conversation too about the eulogy that you're gonna say at my funeral.
oh, I was watching Hangover 3 last night. I was almost pissing myself laughing. And I was like, so when my aunt has grandchildren and they're in the front row, they're gonna be really young when you pass. I'm gonna look directly into their eyes and say almost every day she
She
told me
told me
I was
this.
her favorite. And her last words, Damon, don't you ever, ever change.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
heard all about it.
yeah, my other aunt is going to be in the front row. And I'd be like, I could think of so many other people I would have rather died than my grandmother. And I'm like, her daughter. So,
Oh my God. No. Oh.
and her sister.
Okay, I give you full
Yeah.
permission to
Okay.
do it.
I thought
All right.
I was pissing myself laughing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would laugh if I was alive. I would probably
Yeah.
laugh, but I'd be dead,
Yeah.
so I can't laugh. But I would be laughing. In fact, though, we can make up that box, and you can just press a laugh button and
Pres-
have me record me laugh, and then it
right.
laughs out of the coffin. That would be funny.
That would be funny. Okay,
Yeah,
so the eulogy that I already created for you that was Austin Powers based, I'm gonna mix that with the Hangover.
mix it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
good idea. Okay.
Okay,
All right, good.
so
We're set on that.
we're set on that. So today we're
Anybody
talking
who wants to
about
hear a really good eulogy, come to my funeral.
the next 20 years. RSVP
Mhm.
now because it's gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah, 'cause
packed.
it's gonna be
We're gonna have a full house in that graveyard.
woohoo! Yes. Oh, there, nobody knows me.
Yeah, right? They're just waiting for the jokes.
Yeah, random people.
I'm gonna start handing out flyers right now.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Okay,
good
so
idea.
today we're talking about something serious, the death penalty.
Yes, it is serious. But it's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. I think there's a lot to unpack with that
Okay,
death penalty.
well, let's get into it. So, do we have the death penalty in Canada?
Absolutely no, we don't. It stopped in 1993, I believe, but the last person to be put to death was 1963.
Oh,
And
really?
if you go to the Barrie jail now, you can do
Yeah.
tours, I believe, and you'll see they still have the gallows where they hung
No
people.
way.
Hmm. And most small
They,
jails have them.
they
Yeah,
hung people? They didn't
yeah.
shoot them? Oh my
No,
god.
no, no.
Oh
They
my
usually
god.
they hung them, and then they use the electric chair in the states, in some
Ugh.
states, which they still do.
Yeah.
But I think now most places have options. You can
You
opt
got
for,
options.
yeah, yeah, which is, I don't know. It's, it's hard to consider, if you're sitting down and someone says, "Okay, you're gonna die now. Well, how would you like to go?" Well, you
I
don't want to, so I don't know.
I could imagine them down at a table with three pamphlets in front of them. So there's the electric chair option, there's by bullet, and then there's being hung.
Yes, and I believe
So
that's no. I think the three are electric chair,
Yep.
firing squad,
Yeah.
or the needle.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think most opt. Although I believe there was one not long ago, and he opted for the electric chair. So that was interesting. Who would do that? But they are a little
Probably
bit
like a
nuts.
psycho. Yeah.
These
Yeah.
people in prison. Which brings me to my question. What do you believe as far as the death penalty? Because
Like
it is a similar political topic, like abortion, like those other really strong
mhm.
topics, especially not so much here. I think it's gone forever here, but never say never. But in the United States, the upper part of the states don't use the death penalty. They've gotten rid of it, and
Yeah.
your lower parts do. And it's interesting to me because the lower parts are more religious and don't believe in abortion, but do believe in
Killing
mur-
people. Yeah.
murder. Yeah, people that are already
Also,
here. Yeah.
and I just want to say, I don't think the firing squad should be an option because then it's like you shouldn't have to kill people. And then what if the firing squad, someone who is a part of that gets a little taste for a little trigger happy, they like
Well,
that feeling.
yeah, and it's the same with the person who flips the switch on an electric chair, same with someone who flips the thing to open the floor in a
Oh,
hangman's
that's true. Yeah.
thing. So, somebody has to do it, and so they like, how do you I don't know, how does your generation maybe they don't feel anyway because it's been gone for so long that that's not even an issue anymore.
I think if someone's a really dangerous person to society who's like harming lots of people, I would say that's okay. I think. But and I don't know if it would be a societal thing. I think it's more like person to person belief
Mhm.
almost because I mean, I don't want to kill anybody, but then there's some truly awful people out
Yeah,
there. And
yeah.
then also this earth is getting overcrowded. It really is. Like that's a whole different
Well, we
conversation.
can't
But like,
yeah, we can't kill people because of that.
well, I'm like, are we gonna kill people who are law abiding citizens? Or are we gonna kill the ones?
Right. And then where
Anyway.
does it how does it work? Where is the line drawn for, and that's my issue is it like I lived through um Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, who killed the two young girls from St. Catharines, and Carla
Mm,
Homolka's sister. Um and they videotaped some, like, it was horrible. All of this stuff is on videotape. The only question really is who killed them, and they came down to saying he did. Carla Homolka was able to leave prison because she actually went to the police initially, and before they ever found the videotapes, she was the only person that would testify as to the crimes. So of course she made herself look good.
yeah.
Then after she was had been given this deal with the devil, they found the videotapes, and the videotapes showed a very different story in the sense that she was much more involved
Yeah.
than she said she would. Which, okay, I think you'd believe that anyway. Who's going to go in and say, "Well, I did all this horrible stuff"? And so, but if I was one of their mothers, one of those young girls' mothers, I would love the opportunity to be given a knife or something and go, well,
Yeah.
literally, like,
I
literally,
know. I know.
and so when is it almost rude for people to say, "Well, no, I don't believe in the death penalty." Well, in a sense,
I
for
know. I've
people,
seen like a
yeah,
mother brought a gun to trial or something and she just killed him on the stand. And then obviously she got arrested and stuff, but it's like that's honestly what that person deserved because he beat and like raped her daughter and
right,
yeah,
and you go like,
so
"I understand that, and I can understand those feelings."
mhm,
But then if I look at it as a whole, you have murderers or people in prison now that didn't even commit the crime. They're
yeah.
finding that out more with DNA, which is great but that's releasing people. from prison that have been there for 30 and 40 years that didn't do it in the first place. So those people could have died, and I'm sure there have been people who died having not committed the crime, and that's the
Oh,
fear.
The Green Mile, right? That's what it's called, The Green
Right.
Mile. That
Yeah.
was such a sad movie. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was. It was.
Yeah, that was
And
horrible.
it yeah, it showed exactly what I'm talking about is they have
Mhm.
someone on in prison, um,
Who's innocent.
who's innocent, and
Yeah.
he goes, he's put to death, and I'm sure that's happened over and over and over again, and so how do you make sure 100% if you did have that death penalty that that person did it? That's what
I
I
think
say.
I think you would need, like, concrete evidence,
Right.
like,
And then it goes to the extent of, so that person murdered someone and they're going to jail for life, or going to get
Mhm.
the ultimate punishment. But then the ultimate punishment is society committing the same crime. Like it's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So is that the right way to go? It almost seems sort of backwards and stupid.
See, okay. Yeah,
Right? You gotta like,
yeah.
so it's hard for me because I think, like, there's oftentimes because I do spend a lot of time listening to crime shows and podcasts and books and things like that, and there's so many people out there that are just horrible, awful, don't need to exist in this world people.
Yeah.
But then what it like, just one time, what if it's one person that didn't do it? And how do you reconcile that?
I know. That is really hard. Okay, so in general, do you think you're for or against it?
I have to be against it, only in the sense that what about that
That
happening,
yeah.
that one time? And then doesn't that make us as a society who agrees with it, right? Because if
Yeah.
you voted in we voted it out in Canada, but it could come to a place where we say, "No way, we want that back," and we're putting it back in place. So that becomes the society becomes the murderer, right? And so
Yeah.
as a person of that society, you have to be okay with the idea that that may well happen at some point. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not okay with that. And I think that's why it's gone by the wayside in most first world countries except the United
The
States.
US.
Mhm.
Which it's kind of weird to me that it's not the same across the whole US because you know how you have some states it's not and some states it is. I just feel like it should be the same rule across the board because what if you're a serial killer and you're like, okay, well, one day if I do get caught, let's make sure it's in the states that don't have the
Yeah,
death
wouldn't you be
penalty.
retarded to be doing
Yeah,
it in the southern states?
I,
But they
I know.
do. How
Well,
can
it's
you
more of
be
a
that
thrill.
retarded? Yeah,
It's
I
more of a
guess so.
thrill. You're like,
I
it's either this or the electric chair.
woo!
Winning.
Duh. Like, I've always said that, I'm like, don't ever go to Texas." Like, you just don't even go there, because what if you happen to commit a murder? You're in big trouble. You're going to the chair, and that's it. Like, there's no choice there. So, yeah, no. I don't get it, and I don't understand the thinking behind, um, like, the more religious it is, the more they believe in the death penalty, and I can't wrap my brain around that. I would love for someone to explain that to me.
I don't like religion. I just seen clips the other day of people going up to gay people and saying that, you know, they should go to hell and kill themselves. I'm like, honestly, religion people, do that yourself. Like,
Uh,
no.
I just I don't, understand, like, I would think the death penalty would almost be more of a devilish type thing. Don't you
Yeah. Well, you're
but
taking away someone's gift of life.
yeah, the life that is so important
Yeah.
that they can't have abortions, that life. So how do you reconcile that with, yes, this person's done a very awful thing. I get that. Um, but how do you like? I don't know. Like, I could reconcile it, I think, easier than if because I'm not religious, I feel like. I feel like if I was religious, I would be like, "Oh, I just can't do that." I mean, that's God created that person and created that person that way, or maybe the devil got in there, but, that person is created by this God that's supposed to be here. So, how do you make that decision? I don't
I w-
understand.
I wonder if other countries with different religion have the same thing. Because in like in India, do they have the death penalty? It's so
Yes.
different
Yeah.
because it's just like religions. There's so many different religions, so it's just like
Right. Yeah. And like I think they in the Bible, I believe in the Old Testament it says an eye for an eye. You've heard that. An eye for an eye, a
mhm,
tooth for a tooth. So that's how they kind of explain it to themselves. But again, like aren't we evolved? Have we not evolved from 2000 years ago to something a little bit more intelligent? So and if so, does that to me I don't think we should be deciding who lives and dies, and if we do, ultimately, we're murderers ourselves. That's how I feel about
yeah,
it. I think. Although, I absolutely 100% could, if somebody did that to my daughter, go in and
yeah,
kill that because I would not care. I wouldn't care at that point. It
yeah.
wouldn't be that I'm putting that person to death for society. It would be the absolute rage that I would have, and how
Well,
good would that feel?
everything goes
Honestly, would it
everything goes
feel?
out the window when it happens to you, right? Because we're trying to
Yeah.
think of from our perspective, we're not the victim's like parent or whatever. But it's like if
Yeah,
we were, then it's like, well, yeah, justice. But that's why it's so hard when it's like you see some people don't get justice or what they consider justice for their child or whatever, because some people get like 20
right,
years. And yeah, and that's not
right,
enough.
right, and, like, there was a case in the United States, and it was down, I think in Texas, down there somewhere far down south, and a man came around a barn, they were at a family gathering or something, with children, he had his little girl there, his 3-year-old little girl, and other children were there, and he was looking for her. Anyway, he went around the barn and there was a man molesting in the midst of molesting his child. And he beat the man to death right there on the
Well, I'd say
spot.
that's justified.
He
Well, to
got
me,
off. He
yeah,
he got off. It was justifiable homicide, and many people
good.
were kind of upset with that in the sense that no matter what the man was doing, this man took the law into his own hands. However, it wasn't that big of a ripple.
Yeah,
It really was quite quiet, and everybody just kinda went, "Well, hey," So, is there that justice? And is there,
I think so. Well, just personally to me, if same thing had happened to my kids, like
Right.
I'd want
I
to beat
get it.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, and he did, and, I mean, maybe he didn't intend that was his argument, is he didn't intend on killing the person,
right. My
but
intention would be to kill.
but I guess he did enough. So, I don't know, like, I just feel like in those circumstances, you can kind of turn a blind eye,
Yeah,
even though it's still wrong, a life has been taken. Um, and again, if it were my family member,
yeah,
man, oh man, I don't think I'd have much sympathy or empathy, especially especially with some of these people. Like if I listen to them all the time, and there's some that have zero conscience. It's like they do not care about other people at all. They have
yep.
zero empathy.
Remorse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or remorse or, understanding that they've done something wrong, like, none of it. So it's almost like, do we need to keep these people in the world?
and I think maybe that's you know why each case is separate because it's like maybe it is justified for this reason, but then it's totally not justified for this reason.
Right,
Like
right,
someone gets into a crash, like a car crash or something, and their best friend in their passenger seat died or something. They probably feel horrible about that or something. And they were high or something. They were both high on drugs and they did it. and some people might want that person dead because, like, you're driving high, that was my child who you killed, your best
Mhm.
friend. So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, electric chair. You know, and
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
some people, and it was a mistake. They were, both high or something. So then it's like, okay, 15 years or something, like,
Mhm. I do think we have a very, well, good legal system. I think it's a little bit lax now, a little less,
hmm
on top of some things, than they used to be, and I'd like to see that return. I don't think people should be robbing other people and not going to jail for that. I think there
yes.
has to be consequences for actions, and if there's not, then that just creates more chaos. Um, so
You know what really makes my blood boil is the videos of people who don't pay the landlords who are still living there, and the landlords are trying to get them out because they haven't paid in 6 months and they're still there. That really boils like my blood for some reason. I just can't stand it.
I we had apartments, so we experienced that, and it is the most frustrating, awful thing, and not only that, but they trashed the apartment too. And I mean trashed it. It was just horrific what they did. And then they wouldn't leave, and I was like, they weren't paying. So you're paying the bills, middle of winter in Northern Ontario. Our heat bill alone, we had like 2, apartments, one on the bottom, one on top,
Yep.
a duplex, and the heat bill alone took up almost all of the rent that both renters paid
Jeez.
because they had it cranked to
Yeah.
80 and nobody cared. They'd leave it on like so the
Yeah.
heat bill was out of this world. It was so expensive, and these people were living there not paying, and just oh my god, it is so frustrating. It is so sad for the owners too. And not to mention they trashed a place that they don't even own. They they did it's just awful. Awful feeling.
Yeah.
And
I
you can't
worry
do anything.
for
You can't charge
yeah.
them. Like, we had the police go I finally got it where, because the original person I rented to, she had left and left these 2 there.
Love that.
And yeah, well, anyway, I it turned out I finally got through to the rent control board, and they said, "No, no, no. No, no, these people are, squatters.
Yeah.
They they don't rent." But you have to be so careful because you can't just kick anyone out. And, but anyway, I finally figured it out that they were squatters and I could. And we got the police, and even the police, they did come, but they said, we can't do anything. All we can do is be here. Like, we can't make them leave. We can't go in. We can't do anything. And it's like, it's so frustrating because somebody is literally squatting
Yeah.
in my home that I own and not paying anything, and they can't do anything.
Literally, I want them to go in there, grab them by the back of the necks, put them out to the road. I'll go in with trash bags, pack up their stuff, and throw it out to them. That's all I need the
Well,
police
and the
to do.
sad part was I finally got the stuff and I showed them, "Look, you're not tenants and you have to leave." Like, and that's it. And but I was said, "I will give you 2 weeks, like, to find somewhere because it
Well,
is
that was
midwinter."
nice.
Yeah, really nice. Because after I went in and saw what they did, it was very, very kind of me. But anyway, they decided to take right off because I said, "You're gonna be responsible for any damage in this property because you don't live here. It's actually going to." I told them that. That wasn't the truth. I
Yeah.
asked the police, and he said, "Well, say whatever you want. I can't stop
Yeah.
you from saying anything, but doing it is another thing." So, they left finally, and we got in, and it was awful. Awful.
Death penalty.
That's
Like,
what I think. Like, then there's some people like that that are just like, they don't care. It's like,
I know.
and I heard after that, I found out these 2 have gone around and done this at place after place. One place they had to tear down. It was that bad.
How does it like places get that bad?
Well, you
Like,
should have
how
seen
does
it. They were
damage?
picking cigarette butts, so they'd go downtown and pick and they, I guess, come home with a baggie full or I don't know what, a container of some kind, and dumped it out on the carpeted rug in the living room. They had no ashtrays, so the cigarettes were being put out on the carpet. Yeah, and then they left. They left everything. Like we went in and we just took garbage bags and like photos of family, books, I don't all kinds of stuff, and I just said, "What
Throw
do
it
you do
out.
with it? What can you do with it? Like you can't. I'm not going to find those. Oh my god, I would have killed. Well, your grandpa would have killed them if he would have seen them. So
Yeah.
no.
No. Okay. So back to the death
Oh
penalty
yeah,
here.
we're
Yeah.
sidetracked again. We're killing
We,
people that
we're,
run out on their rent. We're putting them to death.
well, if I owned a convenience store and a kid came in and stole a chocolate bar, death penalty. You know, like
Yeah. Well,
I
anyway,
should.
the I just think in Canada, I think it's gone by the wayside, and I don't think we should bring it back. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons. Our population
Okay.
is terribly, terribly small, so we don't have the crime that other countries have right now, and so therefore, I think our jails, the jail system we have, can manage if you know we get rid of
Mhm.
the petty criminals and we these criminals. I think we can manage those people. I would rather feed those people for their lives than let one person die by mistake. I really would.
Okay.
That would be
Yeah.
awful. So that's my reasoning behind it. I think we're small enough. I think we can manage. And I just the other reason is that I just can't bring myself again, though if something happened to you. Well,
Well, I mean, you
plan
did
B
say it.
is going into action.
Plan B. Thank you, Grandma. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
um, yeah, I see that. It's easy. It's all some people. It's really easy for them to say, "Yeah, well, just kill the person." Like like who cares? It's one less bad person on this earth,
Yeah. Yeah, and
and
I
it's
hear that.
really
I do hear
easy.
that, but a lot of people don't spend much time thinking
I know.
at all. Never
I
mind.
would. Ugh, I would just hate to be on a jury who would have to decide that, because I
Yeah.
think I would say no, but then I would feel pressured if everyone else said yes.
Oh, they couldn't move me. I'm telling you, if I thought no and that was it, they'd never move me off that. I don't care if I was the only one. But I will say that should our population grow extensively, and I would be okay with the death penalty on cases like Paul Bernardo, where there's absolute proof,
Yeah,
100, there's no doubt that those girls died in his home and that he and that thing he was with were responsible for that death. Now, they had to make a deal with her, and you know what? It is what it is. You can't change that. He's there and he's convicted. I would be okay with that. I would be fine if they did use the death penalty against that or someone that they absolutely 100%.
yeah,
Number 1, it wasn't a person like you said. It wasn't a person who them and their buddies are all drunk, get in a car and he rolls it and accidentally, like he didn't
yeah,
set out to do that. I would be against it in that circumstance, but I wouldn't be against it if a husband or wife fucking loses it and kills their spouse. I think those people should die too. I don't have any issue with that if they're absolutely 100% proven
yeah,
that they did that. That's would
yeah.
be my thing. It has to we have to know that. And the nice thing is now with DNA, that's
Hmm.
not as hard as it used to be, you know?
So I think I would need like DNA evidence, and then if there was footage, like security camera footage, and then
Yeah. Yeah, and
and
there's a
then
lot more cameras around.
Yeah, and then if they plead guilty too, I'm like, okay, well, there's the 3 check marks I needed, like, like
Well, quite often what they do, though, is if they plead guilty, like for instance, there was a fellow who killed his entire family, took them and buried the mother, and then threw the 2 little girls in a great big oil tank where at his job, like a great big one. Yeah, awful. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but anyway, he went in. Oh, no, no, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. And finally, they said, "Look, if you tell us exactly what happened and where they are, we will, like, we know you did it. We already know that. We just don't know where they are, and we don't know what happened. If you tell us exactly where they are and how it happened, we will take the death penalty off the table." And often that will get someone to admit what happened.
Okay. So I like that tactic. So I would like if
Yes,
you could say, "Well, we're gonna give you the death penalty unless you tell us where they are." Then
right.
if you tell I kinda like that tactic too because humans need to know that we are
I think
programmed to
yeah,
know.
it's more
Yeah,
important to her parents and their grandparents
yeah,
to know where they were and to find them and to put them to rest than it
yeah,
is for him to die with those secrets.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I agree with that there. I think the United States has slowed down quite a bit on their death penalty stuff. I don't think they do it as much, and quite often people's cases get overturned, like, to life before that happens. So I think they're kind of on the path. Texas, maybe never. I think Texas, just don't go there and commit a
Mhm.
crime for God's sakes, or go with anyone. If they commit a crime and you're there, you'll get the death penalty.
Oh
Like,
my
they're
god, yeah.
insane.
You're in the
They're
back seat of the car,
Yeah,
It's just
yeah. Well,
yeah.
that dog, the bounty hunter,
Oh,
that
yeah?
happened to him. He was in the
Really?
car, and a murder happened, and he got a life sentence, and somehow he
I
had
didn't
it,
know that.
yeah, he got out. Like, he had nothing to do with it, and he said, I did not have anything to do with or what was happening, or I didn't even know it was going down,
That's
but
crazy.
because he was in the car and
I used to
in Texas.
I used to watch Doug the Bounty Hunter, loved it. Oh,
Mhm,
great show,
mhm,
highly
yeah,
recommend. His wife died, I think, of breast cancer or something, she died
mhm,
of
yeah,
something, which,
mhm.
oh, I loved her, she was so sassy, loved her, and
You're so
No, she
sassy.
did. She was so sassy, but she had the nails, like,
She was and she was very kind too.
she was very
I recall
kind.
yeah, yeah,
And she was wanted she was like the feminine one with like nails, but she was also like a badass bitch at the same time. She was a girl boss. That's what she was. She
yeah,
was a
yeah,
bossed up.
yeah,
Like, I loved her
yeah.
so much. Ugh. Beth,
Well,
I think her name
then
was.
he married her best friend.
What?
Yeah,
After she
yeah,
died?
yeah, and right after.
Maybe someone should look into that. Like, poor Beth.
Well, but here's what happens, and I don't know that's a terrible thing. It was a shock to his family and stuff, but I think they're okay now. Here's what happens. People, men especially, and old school men, I don't know, hopefully you guys are a little bit better, but when they'd be with their wife almost became sort of their mother. And so when that mother figure dies, they go out and replace them very quickly so that somebody, because they need that, and you know what I mean? That care.
I was more thinking about they just want to get their dick wet, but
I don't know.
sure.
Dog's pretty. I mean, he's pretty old, and I mean, I'm sure he does still, but
I
not at the
hate men.
rate.
I just hate
I don't.
men altogether.
Maybe a younger guy, but he's an older guy, and I think he just needed that support that
I guess.
she provided. And I think the best friend, when her best friend died, came and supported him, and I think things went from there.
Electric chair.
Yeah, I don't think if my best friend does that, David, you
Yeah.
know what to do.
You know what? I got the chair ready. I know exactly what chair.
If
That
I
wooden
die,
chair in the background, that's the chair we're using.
Yeah, exactly, that one right there,
Yeah,
just
right
strap her
there.
in.
Someone give me a sponge with a little water on it.
Exactly. None of that. Not happening. No way. No
Yeah,
freaking way.
I would be rolling in my if that happened to me, rolling in the grave. I'm coming
Well,
back
it
to
was
haunt
interesting.
somebody.
My grandmother got married 3 times, and her 3rd husband had never been married. And she died,
Yeah.
and he went right out, it wasn't 3 months, and was married again. And I think that was exactly why. I think he j like, had he liked the company together. So, I can see that.
I would say a good rule of thumb is maybe wait a year. A
Yeah,
year.
I think so too. I think that, there should be at least a little bit of space in between, you
Yeah.
know,
If you
marriages.
if I was married to someone for let's say like 25 years,
Mhm.
like even not a year. I know my grandfather passed away and my grandmother she hasn't been on dates or like anything like that. I don't think she's looking or wants to, but if another guy came along, I'm sure she would go out, but it's just like it's been years now and
Yeah.
she's not actively looking for somebody, right?
Well, that it's not now opposite can be said for the women. If the husbands die, quite often you see them stay alone, and that's because they're sick and tired of looking
Of a
after
man.
someone,
Yeah.
and they choose to stay on their own. But, you know.
Someone asked me that the other day. They're like, "Are you ready for a relationship?" I said, "Honestly, I like the idea of one, but if I have to take care of the person and I need to, ask them how they're doing every day and listen to them complain, and I'm already complaining about something, I don't think anyone wants that." And I was like, "So I don't know if I'm ready." And they go, "Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're ready."
Yeah, yeah, no, you might wanna do a little therapy.
Yeah.
A
Well,
little therapy first.
I like the idea of having a relationship and someone to do like stuff with and enjoy each other's company and stuff. But then at the end of the work week, I'm exhausted. And if I have
Yeah,
to see
I
someone
will
every day,
say, being married, I think we're 25, 24, 25 years. There it gets into a comfortable routine for the most
mhm,
part, but there are times when you just want your space or he just wants his. Um, we clash on things that are never gonna be resolved, and
yeah.
that's sad and difficult. So it is a lot, it's a lot to get into. It's not a relationship is not just it's fun at first, and then it becomes a more like work. Like, you gotta work at it, and that's you know, some people
And who
don't wanna
wants to
work at
work?
that. Well, and sometimes you're freaking exhausted, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, divorces happen all the time, and I understand why. Every person who's married understands why.
I also don't understand. Now, I think these are the people who should get the death penalty. When you have a family and you just snap one day or whatever, right? And you kill your wife, you kill your children, and you go out for a couple hours, do some grocery shopping, come back, and you're like, what happened? Like,
Yeah. That's like that guy I was talking about that killed his wife. She was pregnant too. That's awful. And
hmm.
2 little cute little girls, and they were his, which is
Not to
so weird.
not to
So
laugh, but
weird
in
to me.
Texas, that would be double death penalty because abortion because she was
Oh,
pregnant.
yeah,
So
yeah, there'd be a
double death
baby,
penalty.
death too.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
was too. I think he
Oh
was in a
damn.
southern state.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he did that, and another one was, Scott Peterson and Lacey Peterson. He killed his pregnant wife, said he didn't do it. He said he went fishing on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, takes a boat onto the ocean, and, oh, lo and behold, 6 weeks later, her body floats up in the exact same spot he was fishing. But he didn't
It's a
do it, Dan.
coincidence. It
Yeah, it
was a
was a
coincidence.
total coincidence, yeah. Okay.
Do we
Anyway,
have
he's in
DNA
jail.
proof?
They actually just switched his, did get the death penalty, but they switched it to life. He's in California, and I think they're
So
gonna
I
abolish
don't know.
that there.
I don't know if it's like this in Canada, but I've seen some videos of like not prisoners, but people who are out of prison, talk about their sentences, and so they were sentenced to 30 years or something, but really they only served like 10. And is that like that
Yeah,
in
yeah, I
Canada?
think what they do, yeah, in Canada, you're eligible for parole. So when somebody so
Mm,
and I don't and in Canada, I think like Paul Bernardo, he's actually he'll never get out. But he does have parole hearings every 2 years or 5 years. Because in Canada, you can't not allow parole. Which
okay.
I think they went too far the other way. I think there should be people like him that just there's no like every parole
Yeah.
hearing, those parents have to go and sit there and
Oh no, then take it away. Take it away. Like he's in jail
yeah,
for life. That's what it should be.
yeah,
No death penalty, but you're in here for life because it's too
yeah,
much. Like, I
yeah.
don't want to put those parents
So
through that
and
every single
for
time.
lesser crimes or even murder, it's uh 25 years and eligible for parole. So I think you serve 2/3 of your sentence is when the parole starts, where you can go in front of the parole board and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, blah, blah, blah," and they'll decide. So if you don't get parole, I think then you wait another 2 years, and you go back up, and you go back up till the end of your sentence. So you could stay in for the entire 25 years, or you could get out a little bit early, but with murder, I think there's a little more to it. Like
Yeah.
there's halfway houses and things like that. But for smaller, lesser crimes, yeah, you don't serve the full sentence. Serve
See?
2/3.
And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the whole thing is like crazy to me where, you know, 10 years is better than 30, but that's still 10 years of your life. Like, who wants to, you're spending that in not a fun place. So
Ugh.
it's just like, who wants to
Yeah,
commit crimes? Why do people commit crimes? Like,
I
I
don't
don't,
even know because I'm so horrified of the thought
you know,
of
me
going to
too.
jail. Like,
Actually,
seriously, I would be so scared. Well, okay,
I would be
if I
too, but I'd be the
tax
belle of the ball.
tax
So,
well, exactly. Tax fraud, I might do because that might be like a holiday. Like,
yeah,
because it's minimum security, like, you're doing crafts, you're doing painting, you're doing art, you
freaking
maybe go to
construction
school.
paper.
So, I'm not really like, if I'm not paying my taxes, that I may be just subconsciously saying, "I need a fucking break. Give me a break in a minimum security prison for 6 months." That's all. Imagine how many books you can read.
I was just gonna say, take a couple sewing classes, get a couple blankets done for the grandkids.
Right, exactly. Martha Stewart went. If she can do it, I can do it. But like these maximum security, I would be scared to absolute death. Like I just no
Oh,
way. No freaking way. I
I
couldn't survive.
I couldn't do it. Plus, I'm a talker. Everyone would tell me to shut up, or someone would stab me.
I
Weak one. I
snore
know.
like crazy.
Me too. I would be dead.
Yeah.
I
Oh
literally,
yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
have a shank in my neck.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
Yep.
I'd be
Yep.
begging for the death penalty. Like, I can't go there.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't.
So that is the opposite of also I didn't mention, is the opposite of the death penalty is putting someone in prison like Paul Bernardo for and I'm just using him because he is a notorious Canadian, criminal and someone who did something awful. But he's in prison now. He is under like, he's not in with, in general population. So he
Mhm.
is by himself for the rest of his life. Like, what would be worse to you too? Like, I feel
Oh,
like
I
I would
would
want the death penalty. Like,
I would
I
go crazy 3 weeks into being alone by myself. I would be
yeah,
trying to kill myself. Yep.
right, and he's in glass. So, like, I mean, you're going to the bathroom, everything you do is watched.
Okay. So for people who are saying it isn't that bad, for social people like myself, during COVID-19, I was suicidal twice. I gained 100 pounds because I ate my feelings. Like that was me being alone, like and I was
Yeah.
calling people still. So like, yeah,
Yeah, you were able to contact and talk to people. Now these people are not, like,
yeah,
I assume they have some type of time to they can, but not all day long. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure they have, like, a day a week or whatever that they can call home or call their parents or
yeah.
whoever, if anybody talks to them, I don't even know. But I'm just saying, like, what would be so when I think of punishment, maybe I think that that is worse. Like, I don't maybe mind feeding him forever because I hope he's just in hell. I hope that
Yeah.
is what's happening to him, is that he's in absolute hell. But then I think, you know what? On the other hand, he has no emotions or empathy or ability. So is he in hell or is he just, I don't know, like he's like a lizard, I'm sure, his
Maybe he's
brain.
playing Tetris in there, like, I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know.
That's
I'm sure he has television and stuff, so but the guard the what do they call the warden from the
yeah.
Toronto jail, he said, You will never, ever on my watch hear from that man again."
Oh,
Like, and
good.
he hasn't allowed him except for there was, a couple of times where he said he was I forgot what because he was the Scarborough rapist too, if anybody you probably don't remember that. But in Scarborough, prior to these murders, there was 100 or more rapes happened
And that was
over
him?
yeah, it was in St. Catharines and Scarborough, and they called him the Scarborough rapist, and then he was caught due to the fact that he killed these girls and his wife went in and told.
Jeez.
Then they took his DNA and it matched to the Scarborough. They didn't even know anything about that he was that.
Right? There's two
So
separate
anyway,
cases. He was just yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Sorry,
so
I think you were
the
frozen
chief
there.
or the wardens, he said after he was he was arrested and put in jail, he just said, "You'll never hear from that, not on this watch." But he did do some interviews about that Scarborough thing with some police, but otherwise he's never ever spoken or been allowed to speak publicly, which I agree with as well. He should not have a
Yeah.
platform with anybody to talk about anything because he's a pig.
Yeah. Well, who oh, yes. There was a guy here and he was killing gay men. I don't know if he was gay
Oh yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
crazy.
I
Like
think
I
he was. He was
remember
picking people up,
yeah.
eh? And then he was a gardener or something? He
Yeah,
had a
and then he was
business? Yeah. Yeah.
putting in gardens or whatever. That was crazy. I remember hearing that about the news when I my first year university when I moved down here. We seen it on the TV in residence. They were talking about him. I was like, that's so scary. Also, he was ugly as fuck though, so I was just like, who's going with him? Like, how is he getting
Yeah,
them
you're
back to
not.
his
And
place?
the thing was with that, and I think with, Jeffrey Dahmer was a similar, thing where police didn't really take it very seriously or, because it was gay men that were going missing, didn't sort of put the effort in that, if it was a
Yeah,
young, pretty, blonde, blue-eyed girl that they would put in if they were
yeah.
missing. So that's, I think, why he got so many people. Like, I forget how many he got quite a few, and that's bad in Canada too. It's not
So
usual.
remember earlier when I was like, I just watched a clip about religious people like attacking gay people or whatever.
Mhm,
In that
mhm.
clip, they said they don't believe that people are born gay, and then they used the example of Jeffrey Dahmer when they're like, we don't believe he was born a murderer. He chose to be a murderer, and he chose to be gay or whatever. And I was just like,
I think if they spoke with Jeffrey Dahmer, and he did do quite like some interviews, he would probably disagree with them that he absolutely was a murderer and gay from a very young boy, like very young, like 3 and 4 years old. He was knew there was something wrong as far as murder, and then when he went through puberty or in around that
mhm,
age, understood that he liked men more than women, like he liked men. So, yeah, he had no there was no question of any of that, so I don't know where they got that from because they coulda talked right to him, and they woulda told he woulda told them that. He's dead now, but
Also, I wish there was more help. But like when you see the earlier stages of stuff that's happening, like your child goes to the creek and breaks frog legs in half or whatever and dissects it or something, and then he starts doing that to the rabbits, and then all of a sudden your family dog dies or something. But you think, oh, he's just going through a phase or something. Well,
yeah,
maybe let's get him
no.
some help. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and so
Yeah,
I
and
wish
there's
like people would get some help or whatever.
yeah, it's a lot different, it's different if a child if a child hurts an animal and feels remorse, you
Yeah.
know, um, say you do pick up a frog and you throw it or something and the frog dies and the child shows remorse, that's one thing, but if you have a kid that enjoys that kind of stuff, man, oh man, I would have them getting help immediately,
Yeah.
he or she getting help immediately because they say that is 100% an indicator of something very, very wrong. And they actually now are taking that from doing things like that to animals to domestic violence,
Oh
as well
yeah.
as moving even
Yeah.
further into murder and things like that. So,
I remember I caught a butterfly once and I wanted to feel what the wings felt like, so I just gently brushed it, but then it couldn't fly. And then my mom was like, "You killed the butterfly, now it can't fly." Bawling my eyes out.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
And as sad as that is, as hard as bad I know, as bad as a memory it is for you, it's actually a good thing to provoke those emotions from your
Mm,
children and make sure that they do have them. And, you hate that memory, but
yeah.
it shows that you had the capacity and the empathy and everything that you need. Whereas if a child just sits there and goes, "I don't care," or laughs, or then I would be concerned. That would be concerning.
I I think I was over concerned about stuff. I remember going to the grocery store
Mhm.
and someone knocked something off the shelf. So let's say a bag of chips or a can on the floor. I would think, that poor can, all his friends can't help him. I'd go over and put the can back on the shelf. I don't know what but
I know, I used to have teddy bears, like a lot of
yeah,
teddy bears, and
me too.
I had shelving in my room all the way around, so I'd have the bears up on the shelf. Well, my mom would come in at night, and I would have all the bears in my bed covered up, and I would be sleeping on the floor because I thought that they were all cold. So
Yeah,
so I would get them all warm, and tucked in and everything, and then I go lay on the floor with no covers
no
on, and
covers.
my mom
Yeah,
would come in and go, "Okay, no, you gotta get in bed," and she'd make a little hole in the
and the
bears
teddy bear.
for me, yeah.
Well, I thought they would get lonely. They always had to have a buddy with them. Like,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
odd
yeah,
numbers. So,
yeah. Well, that's good. Okay, so death
oh
penalty
yeah.
is sorta yay or nay?
God, I'm gonna say final answer, nay. I think I'm gonna go with nay, even though I think some of it's justifiable. But overall, if I had to say yes or no, like black and white, I would go
Yeah.
with no.
And I
If there
think
was,
I'm
yeah,
the same way, and I think many or most Canadians are, and that's why we don't have it, because of that off small chance that we could be wrong.
yeah,
And, well, not only wrong in getting the wrong person, but maybe wrong in making the determination that somebody should die. Is that up to me or you or anybody else? Or is
yeah.
it so I think for Canada, I think it's off the table, but as I say never. You never know.
Right. I know. And there's always that gray area too. Not every like everything's not always black and white, right? And then it's
No,
just like that's
no,
it's so
and I
hard
think
to
you have to have a
um,
conversation and you have to have thought about it. Like, you can't just
yeah.
sit there just 'cause your mom and dad said, "Well, I believe in it." Just 'cause your mom and dad believe in something doesn't mean that you have to, or that you can't look into it and have your own opinion, because what happened in mom and dad's day or my day doesn't maybe go with what's happening today. You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
change. things change, so you can't so just having that opinion and not thinking about it, which I do hear often from kids who just parrot their parents, and don't
Yeah.
have their own thoughts, and I understand, like, you're around your parents, you trust them, but you are allowed to have your own opinion, and you are allowed to look into things and educate yourself before making a just across the board, because it's a lot to think about.
I feel like now that I'm an adult, leaving the nest or whatever, it's like I speak up. I'm so vocal. Like, I have my own opinions and thoughts or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I loved getting out. I love living by myself, love forming my own opinions, not,
And you're not
debating.
gonna be right every time, like, young people, but that's how the world keeps spinning and keeps going, is young people have a lot of determination and a lot of headstrong
Hmm.
opinions. Sometimes they're not always right, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily totally wrong either.
Yeah.
So it's just like make your own mind up is the main thing, and take in everyone. Like everybody has an opinion on the death penalty. Everybody. Maybe
Well,
somebody could talk me into actually
yeah,
believing in it. Maybe somebody
right?
could give me a reasoning, why is this religion? Why do they more push towards killing people when they actually don't wanna kill little blobs of cells?
Yeah.
Like, what is I don't get it.
You
Where's
gotta
the
make it make sense.
Yeah, and if maybe somebody can, that's the thing, like, I'm
Maybe,
saying
yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be made sense of, I'm just saying I've never heard and nobody's ever explained that to me, and I'd like to it explained without, too much detail how they do that, and maybe there is an absolutely perfect explanation that I would go, "You know what? Hmm, maybe we need the death penalty."
I know. I know. I would be persuaded too, because I'm still like up in the air with the death penalty. I think, like, I would say no, but then I could be persuaded the other way. I
Yeah,
know. I
and
could.
the next really big bad case, you go, "Holy fuck, just
Well,
kill the
yeah,
fucking guy," like, so, yeah, it might be easily persuaded, but
yeah.
again, I think there's a lot of thought needs to be put into it too, so,
Well, I think
yeah,
that was a great conversation.
it was
It
excellent.
was yeah, I really enjoyed
We
it.
always get going.
I know. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope that was, maybe put some more thoughts in your brain about what what
Mhm,
should happen.
yeah.
What's popping. But we hope you have a great day and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Bye.
Bye.